Shri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashatashmad Shri Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashatashmad Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashatashmad Shri Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Mahārāja Srila Yakṣas Babaji Mahārāja ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Naam Achay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Praja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharata ki jai. Shri Maharaj ki jai. Shri Arakund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Dandavat Pranam Gagraj Prabhu. Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Prabrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedu Stang Sarvabhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayet. Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Hyapatrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Praishvavatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptashtakama Titaranga Madhye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Dandavat Pranams Madhavi Didi, Indira Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Raseshwari Mataji, Jai Jai. Haribol. Which prayer is especially important during the month of this Keshavrat? Prajumna Prabhu? So today's chapter is super short. It's less than 4,000 words. So that's good. We'll just read a recap of what we read yesterday, though. First, so we read about the Lord appearing and empowering Dhruva to speak, then Dhruva Mahārāja's prayers. The Lord bestows benedictions to Dhruva and then departs. And then we read about Dhruva's regret. And, where is it? 37. One second. Yeah, he ended his regret. It ended, I wanted material prosperity, name, and fame, although the Lord offered me his personal service. I was like a foolish poor man who asks only for a few grains of broken rice from an emperor. And then Maitreya said to Vidura, persons like you who taste the dust from persons like you taste the dust from the Mukunda's lotus feet. You are always satisfied in serving him and never ask for material prosperity. Oh, he's not saying you. He's saying their minds are completely satisfied with whatever comes on its own accord. Okay. Now Maitreya describes Dhruva's returning from Madhuban and meeting his relatives. It's a reception of Dhruva. Uttanapad couldn't believe his fortune when he heard that Dhruva Maharaj was coming back. Nevertheless, keeping faith on Narad's words, Uttanapad became elated and presented the messenger with a valuable necklace. He eagerly came out of the city on a chariot, with elders, ministers, friends, with the sounding of conches, drums, flutes, and the chanting of the Vedas. Suniti, Suruchi, and Uttama also came out, riding on a palanquin. Note: after being comforted by Narad, Uttanapad showed favor to Dhruva's mother, and did not show favor to Uttam's mother. Suniti, endowed with the best behavior, had Suruchi and Uttam ride in her palanquin. Seeing Dhruva, Uttanapad hastily got down from his chariot and with great affection embraced the boy who had destroyed unlimited sins by the touch of the Lord's lotus feet. His long-cherished desire fulfilled, the king smelled Dhruva's head again and again and bathed him with cold tears. Dhruva, the foremost of all nobles, paid obeisances to his father's feet and bowed his head at the feet of his two mothers. Note: Dhruva paid obeisances to Suruchi also, because after seeing the Lord, he was completely freed from all contamination of material desire. Suruchi blessed Dhruva. Seeing Dhruva fallen at her feet, Suruchi picked him up, embraced him, and with tears blessed him. May you live long. And then there's the question arises: how is it that Suruchi is showing affection to Dhruva, whom she hated before? And the answer is: everyone respects a devotee. All living beings naturally offer respect to that person who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Lord, just as water automatically flows down by nature. Uttam and Dhruva embraced each other, overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love and affection. Their hairs stood on end, and they shed torrents of tears. Suniti embraced Dhruva, who was dearer to her than her own life. Thus she forgot all material grief and was satisfied by touching his body. Suniti was the mother of a great hero. Her tears, along with milk from her breasts, wet Dhruva's body. This was auspicious. Note: the auspiciousness of the Abhishek ceremony performed by his mother indicates that Dhruva Maharaj would soon be installed on the throne of his father. People praise Suniti. By good fortune, your son, destroyer of suffering, has come back after being lost for a long time. He will protect the whole earth. You must have worshipped the Lord, who delivers his devotees from danger. Persons who constantly meditate upon him conquer unconquerable death. When everyone was thus praising Dhruva, the king, being pleased, placed Dhruva and his brother on an elephant and returned to his city. Decorations in the city and blessings on Dhruva. The whole city was decorated with columns of banana trees, betel nut trees, and many shark-shaped arched gateways. Each and every door was draped with mango leaves, colored cloth, and strings of pearls, and was decorated with water pots and lamps. The city's gates and surrounding walls were all decorated with golden ornaments. The domes of the city palaces glittered, as did the domes of the beautiful airplanes which hovered over the city. All the quadrangles, lanes, cities, and watchtowers had been cleansed and sprinkled with sandalwood water. And flowers and grains such as rice and barley were scattered all over the city. The chaste women offered their blessings upon Dhruva as on the road, showering him with white mustard seeds, barley, curd, water, durva grass, and flowers. While hearing their pleasing songs, Dhruva entered the palace. Description of the palace. Dhruva thereafter lived in his father's palace, covered with valuable jewels, and being cared for by his affectionate father. He lived like a demigod in heaven. The bedding in the palace was as white as the foam of milk, and was very soft. The bed sheets were made of ivory with embellishments of gold, and the chains, benches, and other furniture were made of gold. Walls were made of marble with many engravings made of valuable jewels, which depicted beautiful women with jeweled lamps in their hands. Pleasant gardens were filled with trees brought from heaven. In those trees were pairs of sweetly singing birds with buzzing, intoxicated bees. Lakes with emerald staircases were filled with blue and white lotuses, swans, ducks, chakravakas, and cranes. Saintly Uttanapad wondered, hearing and seeing the great influence of Dhruva. What did he wonder? Anyways, seeing Dhruva's maturity, the minister's approval, and the citizens' love for him, Uttanapad enthrones Dhruva as emperor of this planet. After considering his advanced age and deliberating on the welfare of his spiritual self, King Uttanapad became detached and entered the forest, following in his son's footsteps. So now Dhruva Mahārāja's fight with the Yakṣas. Maitreya Uvacha. Oh, and one thing, I'm very grateful to Indira Mataji. She noticed that yesterday, remember, there was a line missing, and so I went to find to read 39 and 40. Well, I accidentally read from chapter 6, the verses 39, 40, not chapter 9. And so then we would have went through, the first 4 cantos of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and missed 2 verses, which would be terrible. Then we couldn't say that we read every single verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, so I'm just going to read that now. Sarashramratam aruhya kartasvara pariskritam brahmanai kulavridhascha paryasto mattabandubhi shankadundu vinadena brahmagoshena venubi nishchakakrama puratturnam atmaja bhikshanotsuka. And the meaning is, the king Uttanapad, being very eager to see the face of his last son, mounted a chariot drawn by excellent horses and bedecked with golden filigree. Taking with him many learned Brahmins, all the elderly personalities of his family, his officers, his ministers, his immediate friends, he immediately left the city. As he proceeded in this parade, there were auspicious sounds of conch shells, kettle drums, flutes, and the chanting of Vedic mantras to indicate all good fortune. Alright, so now we're going to continue on. Maitreya uvacha Prajapater duhitaram Shishumarasya vai Dhruva Upayeme brahmin nama Tatsuto kalpavatsaro. The great sage Maitreya said, My dear Vidura, thereafter Dhruva Mahārāja married the daughter of Prajapati Shishumar, whose name was Brahmi, and 2 sons named Kalpa and Vatsar were born of her. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It appears that Dhruva Mahārāja married after being installed on the throne of his father, and after the departure of his father to the forest for self-realization. It is very important to note in this connection that since Mahārāja Uttanapad was greatly affectionate towards his son, and since it is the duty of a father to get his sons and daughters married as quickly as possible, why did he not get his son married before he left home? The answer is that Mahārāja Uttanapad was a Rajarshi, a saintly king. Although he was busy in his political affairs and duties of government management, he was very anxious for self-realization. Therefore, as soon as his son Dhruva Mahārāja was quite worthy to take charge of the government, he took his opportunity to leave home, just like his son, who, without fear, left home for self-realization, even at the age of 5 years. These are rare instances from which we can see that the importance of spiritual realization is above all other important work. Mahārāja Uttanapad knew very well that to get his son Dhruva Mahārāja married was not so important that it should take preference to his going away from the forest for self-realization. Ilayang api bharyayang vayo putrang mahabala putram utkala namanam yoshid ratnam ajijanat. The greatly powerful Dhruva Mahārāja had another wife, named Ila, who was the daughter of the demigod Vayu. By her he begot a son named Utkal, and a very beautiful daughter. Oh, is that Utkal like Arissa? Arissa was named after Utkal. Uttamas tvatkrito dvaho mrigayayam baliyasa hatta punya jane nartro tanmatasya gatim gata. Dhruva Mahārāja's younger brother Uttama, who was still unmarried, once went on a hunting excursion and was killed by a powerful Yaksha in the Himalaya mountains. Along with him, his mother Suruchi also followed the path of her son, and she died. Dhruva bratri vadam shrutva kopamasha sucharpita jaitram syandanam astaya gata punya janalayam. When Dhruva Mahārāja heard of the killing of his brother Uttama by the Yakshas in the Himalaya mountains, being overwhelmed with lamentation and anger, he got on his chariot and went out for victory over the city of the Yakshas, Alakapuri. Purport. Dhruva Mahārāja's becoming angry, overwhelmed with grief, and envious of the enemies was not incompatible with his position as a great devotee. It is a misunderstanding that a devotee should not be angry, envious, or overwhelmed by lamentation. Dhruva Mahārāja was the king, and when his brother was unceremoniously killed, it was his duty to take revenge against the Yakshas from the Himalayas. Katva dichim disham raja rudranu chara sevitam tadarsha himavad dronya puringu yakashankulam. Dhruva Mahārāja went to the northern direction of the Himalayan range. In a valley he saw a city full of ghostly persons who were followers of Lord Shiva. Purport. In this verse it is stated that the Yakshas are more or less devotees of Lord Shiva. By this indication, the Yakshas may be taken to be the Himalayan tribes, like the Tibetans. Interesting. Tadma sankam prihar paho kam dishashchanum nadayan yena dvigna drishakshatar upadevyotra sanvrisham. Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, as soon as Dhruva Mahārāja reached Alakapuri, he immediately blew his conch shell, and the sound reverberated throughout the entire sky and in every direction. The wives of the Yakṣas became very much frightened. From their eyes it was apparent that they were full of anxiety. Tato niskramya balina upadeva mahabhata asahantastanina ninadam abhipetur udayuta. O hero Vidura, the greatly powerful heroes of the Yakṣas, unable to tolerate the resounding vibration of the conch shell of Dhruva Mahārāja, came forth from their city with weapons and attacked Dhruva. Satanapatato vira ugra dhanva maharata ekaikam yugapat sarvan ahan banaistribi. Dhruva Mahārāja, who was a great charioteer and certainly a great bowman also, immediately began to kill them by simultaneously discharging arrows 3 at a time. Devai lalata lagnaistar ishubhi sarva evahi matva nirastamatmanam ashangsam karmatasya tat. When the heroes of the Yakṣas saw that all their heads were being thus threatened by Dhruva Mahārāja, they could very easily understand their awkward position, and they concluded that they would certainly be defeated. But as heroes, they lauded the action of Dhruva. They lauded the action of Dhruva. That's so interesting. Purport. The spirit of fighting in a sporting attitude is very significant in this verse. The Yakṣas were severely attacked. Dhruva Mahārāja was their enemy, but still, upon witnessing the wonderful heroic acts of Mahārāja Dhruva, they were pleased with him. This straightforward appreciation of an enemy's prowess is a characteristic of real Kshatriya spirit. That's really neat. Te pichamam amirishyanta parasparsham ivoraga sharar avidanyuga par dvigunam prachikir shava. Just like serpents who cannot tolerate being trampled upon by anyone's feet, the Yakṣas, being intolerant of the wonderful prowess of Dhruva Mahārāja, threw twice as many arrows, 6 from each of their soldiers, and thus they very valiantly exhibited their prowess. Okay, so there is a line missing from here, but this time I'm going to be careful. And I'm going to go to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam chapter 10. Database.io. No, not Canto 10. Oh my god. Wait, let me just go to database.com. Give me a second, guys. I should have done this before. Okay, so Canto 4, chapter 10. What verse is it? 12, 11, 12. 11, 12. There. Tata parikranistrikshay prasashula parashvadatai shaktrishtivir bhushundibhish Chitravajai sharar abhi abhyavarshan prakupita saratang sahasaratim ichantastat pratikrartum ayudanam trayodasha. The Yakṣa soldiers were 130,000 strong, all greatly angry and all desiring to defeat the wonderful activities of Dhruva Mahārāja. With full strength they showered upon Mahārāja Dhruva, along with his chariots and charioteer, various types of feathered arrows, parikas, iron bludgeons, nistringshas, swords, prashashulas, tridents, parashvadas, lances, shaktis, spikes, rishtis, spears, and Bhushundi weapons. Autanalpadiksata da shastra varshena bhurina na eva drishyata channa asarena yata giri. Dhruva Mahārāja was completely covered by an incessant shower of weapons, just as a mountain is covered by incessant rainfall. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out in this connection that although Dhruva Mahārāja was covered by the incessant arrows of the enemy, this does not mean that he succumbed in battle. The example of a mountain peaks being covered by incessant rain is just suitable. For when a mountain is covered by incessant rain, all dirty things are washed from the body of the mountain. Similarly, the incessant shower of arrows from the enemy gave Dhruva Mahārāja new vigor to defeat them. In other words, whatever whatever incompetency he might have had was washed away. Hahakarastadaivasit siddhanam divi pashyatam Hatayam manava suryo magna punya janarnave. All the siddhas from the higher planetary systems were observing the fight from the sky, and when they saw that Dhruva Mahārāja had been covered by the incessant arrows of the enemy, they roared tumultuously, "The grandson of Manu, Dhruva, is now lost!" They cried that Dhruva Mahārāja was just like the sun, and that now he had set within the ocean of the Yakṣas. Purport. In this verse, the word manava is very significant. Generally, this word is used to mean human being. Dhruva Mahārāja is also described here as manava. Not only is Dhruva Mahārāja a descendant of Manu, but all human society descends from Manu. According to Vedic civilization, Manu is the lawgiver. Manu used to be my name, actually. Even today, Hindus in India follow the laws given by Manu. Everyone, therefore, in human society is a Manav, our descendant from Manu. But Dhruva Mahārāja is a distinguished Manav because he is a great devotee. The denizens of the planet Siddhaloka, where the denizens of the planet Siddhaloka, where the residents can fly in the sky without airplanes, were anxious over Dhruva Mahārāja's welfare in the battlefield. Srila Rupa Goswami says, therefore, that not only is the devotee well protected by the Supreme Lord, but all the demigods and even ordinary men are anxious for his security and safety. The comparison given here that Dhruva Mahārāja appeared to merge into the ocean of the Yakṣas is also significant. When the sun sets on the horizon, it appears that the sun drowns in the ocean. But factually, the sun has no difficulty. Similarly, although Dhruva appeared to drown in the ocean of the Yakṣas, he had no difficulty. As the sun rises again in due course at the end of the night, so Dhruva Mahārāja, although he might have been in difficulty, because after all it was, and in any fighting activities there are reverses. That did not mean that he was defeated. Nadatsu yatudhaneshu jayakashvishvato mride adatishtarratastasya niharad iva bhaskara. The Yakshas, being temporarily victorious, I'm having a hard time reading words right now, being temporarily victorious, exclaimed that they had conquered Dhruva Mahārāja. But in the meantime, Dhruva's chariot suddenly appeared, just as the sun suddenly appears from within foggy mist. Purport. Here, Dhruva Mahārāja is compared to the sun and the great assembly of the Yakshas to foggy mist. Fog is insignificant in comparison with the sun. Although the sun is sometimes seen to be covered by fog, in fact, the sun cannot be covered by anything. Our eyes may be covered by a cloud, but the sun is never covered. By this comparison to the sun, the greatness of Dhruva Mahārāja in all circumstances is affirmed. Dhanor vispur jayan divyam dishatam kedama udvahan astro gang vyadhamar bhanar ghananikam iva nila. Dhruva Mahārāja's bow and arrows twanged and hissed, causing lamentation in the hearts of his enemies. He began to shoot incessant arrows, shattering all their different weapons, just as the blazing wind scatters the assembled clouds in the sky, just as a blasting wind scatters the assembled clouds in the sky. Tasya te chapad nirmukta bhitva varmani rakshasam kayan avivushushtigma girin ashanayo yata. The sharp arrows released from the bow of Dhruva Mahārāja pierced the shields and bodies of the enemy, like the thunderbolts released by the King of Heaven, which dismantled the bodies of the mountains. 18:19. Balai sancinyamananam shirobhishcharukundalai urubhir hematala dorbhir valaya valgubi harakeyuramukuter ushni shaischa mahadhanai astritas tarana bhuvo Rejuvir Vira Manohara. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, the heads of those who were cut to pieces by the arrows of Dhruva Mahārāja were decorated very beautifully with earrings and turbans. The legs of their bodies were as beautiful as golden palm trees. Their arms were decorated with golden bracelets and armlets, and on their heads there were very valuable helmets bedecked with gold. All these ornaments lying on that battlefield were very attractive and could bewilder the mind of a hero. Purport. It appears that in those days, soldiers used to go to the battlefield highly decorated with golden ornaments and with helmets and turbans. And when they were dead, the booty was taken by the enemy party. Their falling dead in battle with their many golden ornamental dresses was certainly a lucrative opportunity for the heroes on the battlefield. Hatavashishta itare ranajirad rakshogana kshatriya varyasayakai Prayo vivrikna vayava vidudruvor mrigendra vikridita yuttapa iva. The remaining Yakṣas, who somehow or other were not killed, had their limbs cut to pieces by the arrows of the great warrior Dhruva Mahārāja. Thus they began to flee, just as elephants flee when defeated by a lion. Apashyamana satadattayinam mahamride kanchana manavotama purim didrikshan apina visham namayinam veda chikirshitam jana. Dhruva Mahārāja, the best of human beings, observed that in that great battle, not one of the opposing soldiers was left standing with proper weapons. He then desired to see the city of Alakapuri, but he thought to himself, no one knows the plans of the mystic Yakṣas. Iti bruvangshchitra rata saratim yata paresham pratiyoga shankita shushravat shabdam jalader iveritam na bhasvato dikshu rajon vadrishyata. In the meantime, while Dhruva Mahārāja, doubtful of his mystic enemies, was talking with his charioteer, they heard a tremendous sound, as if the whole ocean were there, and they found that from the sky a great dust storm was coming over them from all directions. Kshanena chatitam vyoma gananikena sarvata Visfurat tardita dikshu trasayat stanayit nuna. Within a moment, the whole sky was overcast with dense clouds, and severe thundering was heard. There was glittering electric lightning and severe rainfall. Vavrishurudirau kashrik puyavin mutra medhasa nipetur gaganarasya kabandanya gratognaga. My dear faultless Vidura, in that rainfall there was blood, mucus, pus, stool, urine, and marrow falling heavily before Dhruva Mahārāja, and there were trunks of bodies falling from the sky. Wow. Tatake drishyata giri nipetu sarvato disham gada pariganistringsha mushala shashmavarshina. Next, a great mountain was visible in the sky, and from all directions hailstones fell, along with lances, clubs, swords, iron bludgeons, and great pieces of stone. Ahayo shani nishvasa vamatognim rushakshibi abhyadavan gajamata Singhavyagraschayutasha. Dhruva Mahārāja also saw many big serpents with angry eyes, vomiting forth fire and coming to devour him, along with groups of mad elephants, lions, and tigers. Samudra urmibir bhima plavayan sarvato bhuvam asasada Mahārāja kalpanta iva bhishana. Then, as if it were the time of the dissolution of the whole world, the fierce sea with foaming waves and great roaring sounds came forward before him. Evam vidhanyanekani trasananya manasvinam sasrijustigmagataya asurya mayayasura. The fierce sea with foaming waves and great roaring sounds came forward before him. The demon Yakṣas are by nature very heinous. Heinous. You just say heinous, right? Yeah, they are by nature very heinous, and by their demoniac power of illusion, they can create many strange phenomena to frighten one who is less intelligent. Dhruve prayuktamasuraistammayam atidushtaram nishamya tasamunaya sham asham sang samagata. When the great sages heard that Dhruva Mahārāja was overpowered by the illusory mystic tricks of the demons, they immediately assembled to offer him auspicious encouragement. Munaya uchu otanapad bhagavangstava sharnkatvanva devakshinotvavanatarti haro vipakshan yanamadeyam abhidhaya nishamyachada lokon jasat tarati dustaramanga mrityum. All the sages said, Dear Dhruva, O son of King Uttanapad, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Sharngadhanva, who relieves the distresses of his devotees, kill all your threatening enemies. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord himself. Therefore, simply by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, many men can be fully protected from fierce death without difficulty. Thus, a devotee is saved. Purport. The great rishis approached Dhruva Mahārāja at a time when his mind was very perplexed due to the magical feats exhibited by the Yakṣas. A devotee is always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his inspiration only, The sages came to encourage Dhruva Mahārāja and assure him that there was no danger because he was a soul fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord. By the grace of the Lord, if a devotee at the time of death can simply chant his holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Simply by chanting this Mahamantra, he immediately surpasses the great ocean of the material sky and enters the spiritual sky. He never has to come back for a repetition of birth and death. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can surpass the ocean of death. So Dhruva Mahārāja was certainly able to surpass the illusory magical feats of the Yakṣas, which for the time being disturbed his mind. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 10th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Dhruva Mahārāja's Fight with the Yakṣas. Wow, I don't think we've ever finished this early before. That's great. I could use some extra time today, actually. That was really cool, though, that the sages gave that advice when it was, like, if Dhruva Mahārāja is going through that and the sages say that there's nothing to fear because you can chant the Lord's holy names, then we should never feel afraid in any circumstance, because we always have Harinam with us. We'll never be in a circumstance like Dhruva Mahārāja was there. That's like, so there's never need to fear. Next chapter we will read about, just looking up. One second. Okay, so in this next chapter, Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Mahārāja to stop fighting. Dhruva overcomes the Yakṣas' illusions and massacres them. Then Manu's reasons not to kill the Yakṣas. Then understanding the ultimate cause as the Supreme Lord, give up anger and surrender unto the Lord. So we're going to read that all tomorrow. And then the next chapter, after 11, is Dhruva goes back to Godhead. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtratarashata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Mahārāja Shila Gurudeva Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtratarashata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Mahārāja Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtratarashata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāja Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtratarashata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Mahārāja Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtratarashata Shishmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtratarashata Shila Mahabhagavat Shila Gorksharas Prabhuji Mahārāja Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Prabhuji Mahārāja Ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Pata Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Pata Das Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shigor Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Naam Acharya Lahairas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal, Gaura Mandal, Vraja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharata Giriraj Mahārāja ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Dhruva Mahārāja ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashaja. Krishna Bhakti Prada Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandava Pranams. Yes, I loved the fight too. It was very entertaining. Alright, Haribol. Thank you, Madhavi Didi. Thank you so much for Dhruva, for all the notes and everything. Dandavat pranams to all of you. Haribol. I had a hard time reading though today. Sometimes I'm in a very peaceful mood and I don't struggle so much. I don't stutter as much. And then sometimes I don't know what to do. It's just, maybe I should look up some YouTube videos of how to read in a peaceful way. I don't know. Anyhow, thanks for reading.